Welcome to Sticking to the Truth with Julian Jackson and Debbie Jansen. Are you sure you know the truth? Is there any way that you can find the truth if you don't know it? Julian and I are appalled at the brazen way liberals and all progressives and all kinds of people across this country use total lies just to get their way. But then the Charlie Kirk effect rolls in to change the landscape. So stay with us as we explain how to fight against the lies. Hi, Julian. It is so good to see you. It's been a crazy few months for both of us. I've been working hard on a new project, and you've been busy with family happenings. So how's it going?
Oh, hello, Miss Deb. I am back in my home of Washington, D.C. You are in Ohio, but it feels like you're just next door. All is well. It is the fall. I just keep buying pumpkins. I went to the store again yesterday and bought a few more. You know, pumpkins come in the craziest, those gourd shapes and sizes, and I think I have about 30 outside in my yard. But I love this time of year. There might be a shutdown in Washington, D.C., but it is showtime in my house. There's homecoming for the 17-year-old tonight, and tomorrow we've got another bridal shower. We had it's 15 days and counting for our fourth born girl wedding. This will be our second wedding out of my 5 children this year. We've had our first grandbaby and now our second wedding coming up in about a week and a half. The bridal shower is tomorrow. So, you know, life goes on, right? The sun sets, the sun rises, things might shut down, but it's still showtime. We still have to, try and move the ship forward as best as we can. So that's my state right now.
I love it. I love it. And I'm so happy for you and your family. And isn't it great when you've got hard times and good times mixed together? It helps you kind of get in the mood for getting it all settled. And God is so good when he kind of couples both of those together. Well, I want to dig right into our show this week. I have a question for you, Julian. What do you think is the most important thing you need in order to be successful?
Oh, I think I would say my faith, right? When things don't go so well, it's my faith that gives me a perspective, to purpose, to keep moving forward. I think my faith.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and it's my faith too. But along with that, I believe the one controlling factor in our life is this thing right here, this 6 inches, your brain, because your brain controls everything you think, but also everything you do, everything you believe. So your faith is controlled right here, and everything that you feel. If you lose the ability to control your thoughts and your beliefs, you become a shell of a person. My dad, Dr. Ken Crocker, was a brilliant man. He could figure out any issue and become successful. Now, his definition of success was different from most people. It wasn't about money. It was about what he accomplished and how he helped people. But he was a powerhouse. Yet, Daddy was hurt along the way, and things didn't always turn out like he wanted. But he kept trying. Around age 78, though, he developed severe dementia. I kept him and Mother in my home the last 2.5 years of his life. I could look at him and say, that's my dad. Sorry if I get a little teary-eyed here. But the hard part was that he was nothing like my dad at that point. He had already lost his mental capabilities. He was mentally dead. And yet I was just taking care of the mortal shell. Oh, I could look at it and say, there's Daddy, but it wasn't him, because him was up here and that was gone. It was the saddest thing I've ever gone through. And I think, well, first let me say this picture over me is one that my dad painted. He was a wonderful artist, musician, sign painter, preacher, evangelist, author, the list goes on and on. But when I look at what he became, that's why I look at America as a nation, and I am just brokenhearted about the millions of people in America right now who are living, but they are just a shell. And what I mean by that is that anything can influence them or pull them in any direction. Unlike my dad, those people can talk to you, but it's not a logical conversation. It's more like my dad with dementia. It's angry and frustrated and full of misunderstandings and sorrow. That's a horrible way to live. And yet more than 1/3 of our country lives that kind of miserable, depressed, angry, frustrated life. If I could just help our listeners and anyone else understand how beautiful and satisfying life can be when you control your brain and when your brain can find the truth, I would give everything I own to be able to do that. I don't want anyone to suffer with that kind of lifestyle. And the truth is, and this is where Charlie Kirk comes in, the truth is that Charlie Kirk was doing just that. He was going out among everybody and influencing them and presenting a better way to live. And they killed him for it. Now, I say they because so many people allowed their brain to be infected with lies. You cannot have a good society or a good life when your brain is infected with untrue lies. What do you think, Julene?
Well, first of all, that was so sweet what you had to say about your daddy. That's the first thing I noticed when we came on today was that beautiful painting behind you, and how extra special to know that that was your father that painted that. And I have my paintings of my grandpa in my house, and it causes me to reflect on the goodness of his life, right? And the integrity which these men lived, and their ability to recognize truth from error, right? Because that's what made them so great.
Yeah.
And so, that is the question, right? How do we know in a world where everyone can sound so convincing and sophisticated and pull out statistics, how do you know what is legitimate and what is not? And I really always tell my children, you have to have the Spirit of the Lord with you. And then once you get up off of your knees from asking God, what is truth or what should I do? Then he wants you to roll up your sleeve and get to work, right? Study, read, have conversations with people. So I just heard an interview. I try and listen to something that Charlie Kirk either does or read or said, just because I just love him. I think all of our hearts are still mourning him. And I saw an interview yesterday that took place 1 year ago, right? So it was just a few weeks before the election. And he was just speaking, he was staying close to Arizona because that was kind of a battleground for him. And he won that state for Trump, really. And some people say he won the election for Trump, but he was had just popped over to Colorado, and he was being interviewed on a big stage. And he said he tries to read 100 books a year. He said, when you don't go to college, you have a lot of time. So he said, I just got in the habit of reading a lot. And he said, someone asked him what were the books that changed his life. And he said, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Have you read that book? I haven't read that in years. I'm like, I'm going to read that again. And then Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which is another good one that I haven't read in years and years. And so I thought it was so interesting that in order for him to be able to do what he did, he was very well read, right? He sought for knowledge. And you read a book after book after book, and you'd be able to discern truths from maybe exaggerations or overstretching. And he said in this interview that he was writing a book about how to keep the Sabbath day holy, because just a few years ago, he started to take that commandment more seriously. And he said it's changed his life, the way he treats the Sabbath day, Sunday. It's interesting. Most people don't even know what Sabbath is because we stopped calling it Sabbath decades ago. Our grandmas used to call it the Holy Sabbath. Our grandmothers called it the Sabbath. Our mothers might have called it Sunday, and we just call it the weekend, And so he said He said, it changed my life. He said, if you go into a person's home on Sunday and it doesn't look any different from the rest of the week, then you're not keeping the Sabbath day holy. I mean, the music that you have, the clothes that you wear, I thought it was really fascinating. And so he's constantly seeking and thinking about ways that he can be his best self or live, the precepts of God more fully. And I think another way that you can know truth from error is the way that you do your own spiritual self-care. So, Deb, I was just telling my friend the other day, I do about 4 hours of self-care a day. Now, you might think you're really into yourself, aren't you, Jillian? 4 hours of self-care, but an hour of it is journaling and meditating and breathing exercises and affirmations and little stretches I do, and another hour is actually studying the Bible and studying other books. And then I do 2 hours. I walk the dog for an hour, and then I actually do a fitness class. But all those things are putting me kind of at peace and filling my soul. And it allows me to be more connected with my Creator. And it allows me, I believe, this self-care is spiritual care, because it helps me to hear the voice of God in my life more. So when you study and you read and you don't have a lot of outsized noise, but you're doing things that are going to make you your best and highest and holiest and strongest self, I think you're more apt to discern right from wrong, lies from truth. And so I just liked, some of the thoughts that Charlie Kirk shared. And then I thought about, some of the things that I do. And as far as self-care, spiritual care is self-care, which leads the ability to discern truth, I believe. Dad, what do you think about that?
I agree with you 100%. And I'm going to give you homework. Find out if he finished that book.
Yeah.
I would love to read it.
I don't think he did, but I got to think his beautiful Erica, that Turning Point USA, because this was a year ago he was talking about that book, and I actually heard him talk about it again. So I hope it comes out.
Oh, I do too, because that's the way we lived. Dad was a minister and Mom was a minister as well. And Sunday came, you went to church, and then you came home and you didn't turn a TV on. You didn't mow the grass. You didn't do anything like that. You rested and you thought about Jesus all day long, because 7:00 at night you were going back to church again. So we kind of had that feeling that, we called it Sunday, but treated it like the Sabbath. So I love that idea. That's great. Well, let's see if we can show our listeners how to uncover some lies. Latisha James went on and on for a couple of years about how awful Donald Trump was. She drove home the point that no one is above the law. I worked with attorneys when I was younger, and even with the limited information about the law that I have, I knew her case was frivolous. It was wrong, and her campaign promised to get Donald Trump because of political retribution. I knew that was not, Julene, would you say legal, or would you just say it was not going along with democracy?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I would say both.
Both. Okay. Well, the thing was, I just knew it wasn't right. And part of what Charlie Kirk did to study, you need to study so that your brain is ready and you have the information to see, this is not right and that is not right and whatever. Well, this week or a couple of weeks ago, we found out that she was doing what she claimed Trump did, which is what most liars do. They will accuse you of whatever they're hiding. But she was doing it more on a criminal basis. She absolutely lied, and we have a paper trail to prove it. And she was using her job to get favors, but also against Trump. And now that she's been indicted, she wants to flip it around again and claim that Trump is now taking retribution on her. This is the basis for so many lies today. Liberals, Democrats, progressive, just normal people, they have blinded eyes to this statement. If it's wrong for you, then it's wrong for me. For some reason, the biggest problem with lies is the blindness it causes when you view other people. Most people have one or several things in common. They're angry, they're miserable, and they become violent because they can't see your pain. They just know what they want and they have to get it regardless. They can't see that they are doing what they are accusing you of doing. They can't step out of themselves and see the truth. So if you want to know if something is a lie or someone is telling you a lie, ask whether or not that person is doing what they don't want you to do. If they are, then it's a lie to demand that you do what they want. What do you think, Julie?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Deb. And I think, it can be confusing sometimes, right? When someone is accusing someone of something and you're not sure if it's truth. That's why I think you have to look a little bit farther and look at the fruits of the person that they're trying to minimize or tear down, and also look at the fruits of the person that is hurling the accusations, right? So, that there's been a lot of labels put on this current administration. President Trump, negative, he's sexist, he's racist, he's homophobic, he's divisive, he's a dictator, he's tyrannical, he's a fascist, he's a Nazi, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, my goodness.
So you're like sticks and stones, right?
Yeah.
But I say, look at the fruit of a man that is being labeled all these terrible things, all right? And I think it's more or less what is being said about him, or maybe even what he says. Let's look and see what people actually do. So I look at a man whose marriage in this term is very strong. Melania is with him by his side at important events, right? They just came back from England. They just celebrated the Navy's 250th anniversary. She's very engaged. She speaks. Look at the relationship he has with his children. Look at the relationship he has with his grandchildren. I feel like I know his grandchildren even because he's there by his side. He talks about him. He's so proud of them. Look how he defends life. He goes to the pro-life rallies, or he sends his vice president. Look at his cabinet, how they speak, how when they spoke at Charlie Kirk's revival 2 weeks ago, how they all quoted the Bible. They talk about their family. They talk about their morals and values. Look how fit and healthy, they are. They're walking the talk. They're doing the things Hegseth and RFK Jr. They are doing what they're trying to get us to do. And so, and look at President Trump. I just read today that actually yesterday, he's coming an end to the Gaza and the Israeli war. This administration, almost every day, they are doing something positive. So you look at what a person does to know what is really truth about them. And if someone is trying to tear them down, look at maybe the person's life who's trying to tear them down. What are the fruits of their life, that they feel like they have to devalue someone? So, I look at the person's family, his relationships. The fruits of a person say almost everything that I need to know, way more than what words are. And I like what I see, what's coming out of Washington, D.C. right now.
I just love talking to you. Because when we talk, we each take it in just a little bit different direction. And I love that. But you're exactly right. You're exactly right. If you're worried about whether or not someone is telling the truth, if you step back and don't listen to their words, but you watch what they do, what we do is always true. What we say can be or it cannot be. I watched a clip of the Winsome and how do you say that? Spanberger debate in Virginia for the governor's race. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but the Democratic candidate for Virginia's Attorney General, Jay Jones, made several statements about the former Republican House Speaker and said he should get 2 bullets to the head. Can you imagine? Now, I know that was a year or so ago, but those kind of words just don't die. While he apologized for the text, but only after everyone was upset. He didn't apologize ahead of time. He wasn't going to say anything until everybody discovered what he had said and brought it up. Now, Spanberger denounced the text. She's running for the governor's race. She denounced the text, but she refused to demand that he leave the race. And here we come back to what you said, Julene. What is she doing? She is allowing in her head to leave him in the race, and she deflected when someone asked her, why don't you just demand that he leave? She said, well, that's up to the Virginia people to decide. So you're not going to take a stand on what was really a violent conversation about a Republican. If you're not going to do that, here's the truth. If she can back up her condemnation with a demand for him to leave the race, then it's obvious that she has no problem or it's obvious that she has a problem with killing her opponents, and certainly so does he. That's an obvious truth issue. If you can stand strong and defend safety for all people, but at the same time, you are willing to say, let's put 2 bullets in that guy's head, then you're a lying hypocrite. There's a big difference now in some people who get this little thing wrong or that little thing wrong. For example, if you were to say that AOC, or get confused on whether AOC is black, or maybe that she came from Venezuela or Japan or whatever, and I'm just teasing because I know we all know, but if you get confused on that, that's kind of a factual issue that a lot of people could be confused on. But there's a big difference in getting confused on some minor fact and pretending to misspeak about committing murder. And by the way, I hate that word misspeak because it's just a code word for I lied. The truth is that Miss Spanberger is a liar, and she will do anything she has to do in order to control the people of Virginia. So if she was not a liar, what would she do? She would say, there is no excuse for that, and yes, he needs to leave the race. So what does your brain tell you about that, Julene?
Oh, that's interesting, because I live in Maryland, so Virginia is just, hop, skip, and a jump. Seriously, I can be in Virginia in 10 minutes from where I live. So I follow the politics a little bit. I heard Charlie Kirk say recently, before he passed, that silence is consent. If you don't stand up to something, you might as well just acknowledge you're going to go along with it. And I think looking the other way, or deference, or trying to, skirt an issue under the rug or water it down is equivalent to consent or going along with it. We know what God says about being lukewarm. He wants to spit you out of his mouth. He'd rather have you either say I'm for this or against it. But if you just try and do the little happy dance around it because you're afraid to really speak truth. And so, I think our willingness to get on the wall and to speak out and to speak up when something is not right, instead of, she's kind of hiding in the wings there. And her unwillingness to speak up and say that was wrong, well, then she's basically consenting that, yeah, if you do something that I don't like, I guess we can kind of joke about killing one another. And I think also in that same vein, when we have the opportunity to do something meaningful, instead of maybe just fluff and stuff, is what I call it. So, we just had a bridal shower on Monday. And we're going to have another bridal shower for a new little bride tomorrow. One in the West, one on the East Coast. And a few years ago, I've been to a lot of bridal showers and baby showers. I'm sure you have too, Deb, in your lifetime. And, you play fun little games and you do unscramblings and you smell things to decide what kind of poop it is. And, just silly things. And I decided several years ago, with the collective wisdom that comes, the women that come to these events, I want to take advantage, and I want that little girl who's being celebrated to leave feeling empowered about what she's about to do and to feel good. And so what I typically do is have everyone go around and share a memory of, the bride or the new mother to be, and then a word of advice about marriage or, how to be a good mama. And by the time, and we go around, and sometimes it takes a whole hour, and the mothers and all those who attend, young girls, some people aren't even married. I just make them say, I always say, hey, if you're not married, think about a good marriage that what are they doing? Your parents, your grandparents. And by the time that event is over, so the bridal shower on Monday, there was a 93-year-old great grandma all the way down to a 4-month-old. And so you get perspectives from different age groups, and the women laugh and they cry, and it's the Spirit of God is there, and everyone leaves elevated. And so when we have the opportunity in life to go light or meaningful, to go fluffy or deep, let's seize upon the opportunity and pull that collective wisdom and elevate everybody and make something. Don't just go along with the crowd because you don't want to stand out or be controversial. These opportunities are limited sometimes. And so when we have them, speak out, do something that's going to matter and impact everyone there. And oftentimes it includes using our voice, our words, our experience, and that's going to take a little courage, right? Instead of just going with the flow.
A lot of courage, and I love where you went with that, darling. Thank you. Because my favorite thing is in Ezekiel, he said that if you don't condemn sin, that God will judge you as if you did the sin. So you're right. Charlie Kirk is right. When you are silent, you are giving your permission for it to go on, and that is never right. Well, let me say let's change a little bit and talk about Chuck Schumer. He is standing at the pulpit and he is at the podium, and he is telling everybody, I'm doing this shutdown for the American people. And we've got to fight this fight. But here's my biggest problem with that. You can't say that you are working for the American people and yet be willing to impose harm and pain on those people. Now, Chuck Schumer is, according to Forbes, he is worth over $7 million. And the shutdown is not hurting him at all. I am sure he can pay his bills, and I am sure he can buy anything he wants. He feels no pain for this shutdown. So how can he say he is fighting for us if the very people he's fighting for are the ones that are being hurt the most? Let's take a look at that. A military subordinate gets about $2,144 per month in 2025. Now, if you go up and you're a sergeant, you might make as much as $3,500 to $3,700 per month. My question is, why would any Democrat stand in front of a microphone and tell the world he's fighting for us, he's fighting for them, when most of, quote, us are paying the price while Schumer types are just fine? Schumer isn't doing the fighting. He's only demanding the fighting of precious little mamas and daddies who are working hard trying to provide for their children. So for the truth, we must compare both sides. Let's talk about Trump. In comparison to Schumer, Trump has even more money. As of 2025, Trump's net worth is $7.3 billion. However, here's where the truth comes in. Last week, I think it was the third or fifth day into this shutdown, Trump's team pointed out that WIC, I should have looked it up. I don't remember what that stands for, but it's the program that provides milk and food for babies and underprivileged families. WIC was going to run out of money because of the shutdown. Trump immediately announced he would take money from the tariffs and fund WIC well into next year. Can you see it? Wealthy Trump, even with more money, cares more about Americans than Schumer does. And let's take it one step farther. Yeah, he's got a lot of money, but he's spending a lot of his own money to fix up the White House. He bought those big, huge flags, and he's doing things to the White House, and he's trying to take care of different people in different areas, and he's donating to people. Trump just proves, like you said, Julene, by what he does, that he does not want innocent people or children to suffer. This problem should not be put on the backs of babies. And I predict, you can tell me if I'm wrong, Julene, but I predict that if this goes on even farther, that Trump will find a way to take care of all the innocent people who are suffering. He knows where the blame for this shutdown really is. He knows the Democratic Party doesn't care about its people at all. Now, do you see the real truth?
Mm-hmm. Right. And once again, look at what President Trump did his first term. He didn't even take a couple $100,000 salary. He, and like George Washington and maybe one or two other presidents in the history of our country, would take either didn't take the salary, or what salary he had, he donated it to the national parks or to education. And so, you can say what you want about people, but look at the fruits and their actions. And look, Deb, I've lived in Washington, D.C. off and on for 30 years, and I've had enough friends and neighbors that have been a part of shutdowns through the years. And they do a wink, wink and a nod, nod, because they know they're going to get the back pay. So it ends up really just being a nice paid vacation. And so I see how these shutdowns are really politicized and used by the other side, not in power, to demonize, the politicians, leaders that are in power. And clearly there are essential services, our police officers, our firemen, our traffic controllers, the military, that, they still have to show up, and it hurts not to get that paycheck. And, if you're only living on maybe a couple $1,000 a month paycheck, you need that money. And so, this is yesterday, the House passed the spending resolution. This for the seventh time now, the Senate, the Democratic senators, even as late as yesterday, declined, to pass a spending resolution to at least keep it going for another month. And they're citing, tax subsidies for Obamacare. And so, look, we get tired of this mudslinging, and we just want these politicians to do the job that we elected them to. We have a Republican president. We have a Republican held House and Senate, but it takes 60 votes to pass these spending resolutions, and we have a narrow lead in the House, and so it's harder to pass things in the House. And the Democrats are just playing hardball right now. It's gone to the Senate 7 times, and they've declined it in the last 10 days. We've been shut down for 10 days now, so it's not that they're not trying. And so, it's really, to me, these shutdowns are just another opportunity to try and demonize the other side and make them look as dastardly as possible. But really, I think you're seeing their hearts are truly being exposed, right? I mean, the Republicans are trying. Seven votes, and it was turned down again last night in the Senate. They refused to open back up the government. So, let's hope enough of the citizens are going to start haranguing their elected leaders and say, hey, this is ridiculous,
I hope they do. I hope they do. But I also hope that everyone in America votes according to this kind of situation, that you don't just hang on to what you've done for years and years, but you actually look at it and change your vote. And let's get some people in there that really care about you. I don't remember her name because I saw it just really quick this morning while I was grabbing a cup of coffee, but apparently I'll try to get her name for you next week. She was a reporter who was very much liberal and into the Democrats. And she was saying, when I walked past the TV, she was saying, but you know, over the last few years, I've paid attention to what they do. And I will not be a Democrat ever again. So make up your own mind. It's not us just trying to tell you what to do. Make up your own mind, but pay attention to what these politicians are doing and use your vote to change things in America. Well, we're getting close to our time, maybe even a little over our time, Julene, but I want to include a quick review and new topic for protecting your kids from violence. Go back to our other videos and listen to our views on this topic. We discussed that it begins with you. You must love your child completely. And then the first thing, you must teach your child to respect you as a parent and mentor. And second, you must discipline your child, and the proper discipline. It's not beating on them. It's using your influence with them. And so today I want to talk about you must teach communication and how to influence others. You will never be able to convince them about the difference between right and wrong unless they know how to communicate their feelings and how to understand influence and the information that you're trying to give them. They need to be Charlie Kirk, or maybe they need to be someone listening to Charlie Kirk and you be Charlie Kirk. Influence your kids and teach them about conversation. They can't be afraid of conversations even when they're hard. Right, Julene?
Well, the best place to teach your children to have hard conversations is to practice talking it out within the home. So I went to my little 17-year-old's lacrosse game yesterday. She's captain of her lacrosse team. And it was a heated battle, and their best player was talking back to the ref and causing a ruckus on the field. So the coach called her out for a minute and also called my daughter because they needed to resolve this issue. And while they were talking, the other team scored a point. And so my daughter had to quickly, fast, help this little girl to realize the error of her ways. She apologized to the coach. They got her back in, but they never could. They lost the game 0-1. And then afterwards, my daughter, being the captain, had to stay after and talk to the coaches because tomorrow they're going to have a meeting. And so, she came home and we talked it through. And I also, my oldest daughter, who's 30, just took a job coaching 700 people a day on a program called the Bright Line Eating. People call from all around the world, and she gives them advice on healthy eating, and look it up. It's a really good program. But she usually calls me after her calls because I listen to them each morning and wants a little rundown because she's new. And she said, Mom, I don't want to appear like I'm being mean when I tell them the truth. And I said, honey, this is why they want you to say the hard thing. They're looking to you to be instructed. And so teaching our children to have the courage to stand on that wall and speak truth and to speak in the classroom. My daughter practically every day tells me something that she said in class that kind of pushed against the norms of girls her age. And that they were talking about the roles of men and women and how, women are trying to be men nowadays, saying they don't need men. And she defended the biblical roles that God has said in Scripture, and it incited a really good conversation. So, just continue to teach that when you don't say anything, when you don't communicate, it's as if you're advocating for what just went on, right? Silence is consent, or looking the other way, or being neutralized by not getting involved. We want to teach the kids to have skin in the game, and help make a difference. Don't just be a mere spectator on the sideline. You want to be in there, and that's going to include, competing for truth, competing for the kingdom. And it's going to require your words, and action. And so, talk difficult subjects through in the home. So when they're out in the classroom or out, talking with coworkers or peers or neighbors, they will be able to find the words. We don't just run away from evil. We stand and we confront it. We chase it down. And that means we're going to have those hard conversations in life. And that's such a valuable tool to teach your children and your grandchildren. Every day, my kids tell me about how they have the courage to do something hard. It is empowering for them, and it impacts and changes people around them when other people will have courage to stand and speak truth. So, obviously, I feel impassioned about this principle as a means to combat violence and other behavior that's not correct. That when we don't say anything or do anything, it is like we're consenting to the misjustice. And so, anyways, Deb, I think that's all I got today.
Well, I love it. I know we're over time, but I am going to make one little comment to that I want to share with our listeners, that when you're teaching your kids this and to speak up and to have a voice, tell them this. In my whole life, and I'm older than dirt now, but in my whole life, anytime I have said the truth to someone who is open, who is ready to grow, they always come back and they thank me. They always come back and say, thank you so much. That was just what I needed to push me over the edge. That was just what I needed to change. And those are the ones you look for. There will be people that are so ingrained to hanging on to their pain and sorrow that they don't want to hear it. They don't want to listen to you. And so when you talk, it makes them angry. And that's when you just kind of say, okay, I'm going to pray for you. And you close up and you walk away. But what you're looking for, and you can change so many people's lives if you look for the person who is ready for as the Bible says, is ready for the seed that you're going to plant. And they're going to take that and they're going to grow with that. And when you do that, you are always going to be successful. And thank you so much for listening to us today. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic by writing Debbie@DebbieJansen.com. Thanks again to our wonderful producer, Ken Jansen, who makes us look good every week. And thank you, Jamie, to fixing up the studio. We are just so excited for some new things that we are going to be able to bring to you this coming year. So this is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Julie Jackson, and we hope that you will keep sticking to the truth. We will see you next week.
Bye-bye.